Welcome everyone to another Patch and Play live stream. This is episode number... I have no idea. I lost track. Maybe somewhere between 15 and 20? Well, I hope you are all doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. My name is Jimmy, aka Perceptes. And if this is your first time, welcome. I'm glad to have you. See, we've got some people trickling in already. Sunbursta Studios, welcome back. Very good to see you again. Glad you enjoyed the last one. So I like to start off these streams by giving a little bit of sort of explanation of what's going on for people that may have clicked on this not even knowing anything about modular or understanding what this is about, and we're maybe just curious, and also to just give people a little bit of time to join. So this is a stream where we do some modular synth patching, and a modular synth is what you see in front of you. It's a way of creating electronic music where you have these individual pieces of hardware called modules that do kind of one thing that would normally be part of a larger kind of standalone synthesizer. And you use these patch cables, which are just these little audio cables, to plug in inputs and outputs in between modules, and they communicate with electricity, and you kind of wire together the signal flow yourself and create your sounds that way. So what we do in these streams is we try to educate and entertain. I do a lot of like musical performances and sort of planned educational videos about music production and modular on my channel. But a lot of times, and especially for the musical performances involving modular, people just see the finished patch with like a zillion patch cables, and I have captions on the screen that kind of explain the key elements of the patch to provide some interest beyond just listening. But it's very hard often to understand, like, how do you get from a blank slate to what we're seeing in a finished musical performance? And so part of the impetus for doing these live streams was to kind of show part of the process in terms of like actually building up a patch from nothing. And then also to kind of share the thinking process behind how do you decide what you're going to plug into what and why and for various purposes. So each week we do something. Usually I have a little bit of an idea of what I might do in advance, but they're not really planned. It's certainly not scripted in any way. And we're just kind of exploring different aspects of modular and doing a slightly different thing each week. Sometimes maybe a little more samey, sometimes quite different from things that we've done previously. Hey, Tyler, great to see you as always. I'm doing well. I think this is going to be a very fun stream because, like I said, I don't usually plan super detailed in advance. And I should say, actually, that as I always do, if you have any questions or there's a specific thing that you want to know about or want me to focus on, please let me know in the chat, because I would always much rather focus on what the people who are here live want to see rather than me just rambling on, because if I'm going to do that, I might as well do it as a pre-recorded video. So the interaction is important. And I want to teach. Like, that's really the part of this that I enjoy the most. Is I don't proclaim to be an expert at this. I've only been doing it for a few years. But I do have a longer, background in music and synthesis. But I really enjoy like kind of explaining things and helping people to understand things that maybe have been mysterious to them. So by all means, interrupt me, ask questions. If you also have ideas about kind of where we're going in the patch and you're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we tried this? Absolutely share that with us, and we will give it a try. So yeah, like last week, if for anyone that was here or who watched the recording of last week's, you will recall that the Natural Gate by Rabid Elephant, which is this module over here in the right case, this pretty looking thing with the 4 sliders. I had ordered this and it arrived like 10 minutes before the stream started. So we unboxed it on the stream. Let me grab the box. It's really cool. Here's the box. It has a cute little elephant on it. So we opened this up and took a look at the module, but we didn't plug it in or actually use it. And so now that it's been a week, I've had a little bit of a chance to use it. It's obviously slotted into the case, and some of the modules have been shuffled around a little bit to make room for it. But I think today I would love to explore the Natural Gate, just kind of put it through its paces, see what we can do with it, listen to the sounds. And I think that will be a very good time for all. Let me catch up with the chat before we proceed. Oh, and let me also start drinking my tea. It's another kind of meme level thing on the stream is I've got my green tea every week, and it gets cold before I remember to finish drinking it. So I'm trying to front load the tea drinking while we're waiting for people to trickle in at the beginning. Sunburst of Studios, an annoying modular day. Oh no, things went wrong. Tuning issues, MIDI clocking went weird. Patch saving didn't work right. Yes. I mean, this can happen in both hardware and software, so I wouldn't give modular a bad rap. Maybe the tuning part, because tuning is something that you generally have to do in modular, which you don't have to do with software instruments. For anyone that doesn't know, the way that like pitches work in modular with oscillators is that let me focus in on the right case. So for example, here's ONA. This is an analog oscillator. So you've got one knob that controls like the octave range of like which note it's playing by default, and then a fine tune control that kind of changes the note that it's playing in roughly, I'm not sure it's tuned to like semitone steps, but it like basically plus or minus an octave. But if you don't patch anything into an oscillator, generally it's just droning away forever on a single note. And the way that pitch control works is you send a voltage in that is relative pitch control. So every additional volt you send it increases whatever pitch it was playing by default by an octave. And the voltages in between octave boundaries are kind of like the notes in between. But there's no such thing as like sending it a signal that says play a D4 or something like that. It's only, you're only sending it signals relative to what it's tuned to. So if you're playing with multiple oscillators at the same time and you want them to be in tune with each other, you have to like manually tune the starting point of each oscillator to be playing the same pitch. So that's a bit of an annoyance for a lot of people. Like I don't mind it because I just like the fiddliness of modular. I think it's kind of fun in a nerdy way. But it is like, if you're just the type of person that just wants to get started making music and you find that to be like a hindrance for getting started, then it's definitely one of the disadvantages of modular. You don't have to do that with software and then MIDI controlled stuff. Obviously, you're sending note messages for specific notes and you don't have to do anything like that. Clocking issues, also annoying for sure. Sometimes when I'm having an issue, I like double check myself because there's like several things that could go wrong. And I've actually had several occasions where it was actually the patch cable itself that was bad, and I swap it out with another one, and then suddenly things work. And it's a bit of a tangent, but I think it's worth mentioning also. One thing that I've also been learning about in modular is like the impact of the power that's supplied to the case can actually have effect on the sound in certain cases. So one problem I'd been having when using the Oxy 1 sequencer, which is this little rectangular box in front of me, I would sometimes sequence this with pitches sequence pitches for one of the oscillators. And then as I would change between sort of the digital pages on the sequencer, the pitch would change and it would get out of tune. And I was like, am I going crazy here? Like, why is this happening? And so I tried different patch cables. I tried, plugging the patch cable directly into the Oxy 1 as opposed to going through this pipe module. You can see it's connected with an HDMI cable, which sends all of the control signals through the HDMI into this module, and then I can just patch from here, which is usually a little bit less cable spaghetti. I thought maybe it's something about the pipe, so I tried patching here directly. I eventually discovered the problem was that I was plugging the USB power on the left here into the USB jack on my case that's drawing power from the 5-volt rail inside the case and the power supply, and that is like not clean isolated power. So there's like some sort of feedback. I don't know much about electronics, so I can't explain very well like why this happened. But you'll see now that I have the Oxy 1 USB control plugged into my guitar pedal power interface, which has a USB jack on it. And this is very like clean isolated power. And that pitch instability went away when I was powering it off of this. So this works for like charging your phone or plugging in a light or something. But if you need something, if you have it plugged into an instrument, you may actually get kind of problems with your signal as a result of using a power source like that. So these are the little things that you learn working in the world of Eurorack. GoBot90, welcome to the stream. Question, what's your favorite type of wave? I think, assuming you're asking me, definitely a saw wave, the old, the true. I like the original analog waveforms. I think the most recent oscillator I got was ONA, which I was just talking about. I'd made a thread on Mod Wiggler modular forum asking people like, what are your favorite oscillators that have direct outputs for the kind of standard analog waveforms, sine, triangle, saw, and square, or pulse. And this was, of all the ones that people suggested, this is the one that I liked the best in terms of kind of user interface and feature set and size. And it's worked out really well. My initial motivation was that now I'm doing a lot of these educational videos, and I have most of my like oscillators are kind of more complicated than the sort of bread and butter analog ones. And I found if I just want like a sine wave or a triangle or something, one of the basic waveforms to demonstrate something, it's actually not so trivial to generate a signal like that with the other oscillators I have. So I wanted something that was really straightforward, kind of old school, just the basics of synthesis. And I found that I actually really like the sound of those old school waveforms, and I use this module a lot now. Hey, Bad Machine, welcome to the stream. For anyone just joining us, we're going to be focusing on natural gate today, which is this beautiful module right here. I should also mention, as we start to get into natural gate, that part of the sort of fun of this particular module is that it's like ridiculously hyped. It's kind of funny when there's like gear hype in I guess in the synth community in general. It's kind of funny. I guess maybe some people really kind of dislike this sort of commercial marketing hype aspect of things. But this module is made by a company called Rabid Elephant that I think is just basically one person. Certainly one person who's kind of leading the design and manufacturing and sales and everything. And it's very, very well liked to the point where the demand for years has massively outpaced the supply. I think this module's been around since 2017. So I'm way late to the party. It's been almost 10 years that this thing has existed. I should zoom in on the right case while we're talking about it. And so I was reading the thread on ModWiggler, again, the modular forum. And one of the things I don't really like about ModWiggler, as opposed to like Reddit or kind of a I'm not sure how you describe it, like a system or a social media board where there's like multiple threads about the same topic. ModWiggler organizes itself to be very linear. So there's usually like one thread about a given module, and it's like a zillion pages long, and the discussion is all flat, linear. And there aren't like threads of conversation. So unfortunately, because of the sort of marketing aspect of this particular module, a lot of the discussion is people like talking about the sort of business model and the scarcity of it and how hard it was to get one. And then when people finally got orders in, there's like pages and pages and pages of people just like posting their order numbers in excitement. And so I was really in love with this module when I finally got it. And I started reading through the thread. I'm like, I want to read the whole thing because I really want to know everything about it. And the first sort of initial pages were kind of more interesting because it was talking a lot about the feature set. But at a certain point, it kind of became a slog because of all the discussion of this kind of just going over the same points about the business model over and over and how scarce it was. And so it was a little bit of a slog, and it was like kind of a sunk cost fallacy, where I was like, okay, well, I've read like 40 pages of this 67-page thread. I might as well keep going in case there's some gem of information in here that I'll miss otherwise. And there were a few interesting things. The great thing about the guy from Rabid Elephant is he's very transparent with his thought process about both the business and the electronics and the musicality of this thing. And he explains a lot about sort of how it came to be and all of the details about how to use it and actually the details of the circuit and the electronics and the manufacturing. So it's actually very interesting to read all the firsthand accounts of everything. And I realize now I've actually not even mentioned what this does. I got on a tangent right away. This is a low-pass gate, a 2-channel low-pass gate. So a low-pass gate is kind of a combination between a filter and an amplifier, VCF, VCA, where with a filter, like a low pass filter, as you turn the cutoff down, you lose the high frequency information. And then when you get to sort of the bottom point of the cutoff, usually you can't hear anything, or maybe you hear just a little bit of very, very low frequency. A lot of low pass filters don't fully close all the way, so you're still always hearing a little bit of sound. And then a VCA obviously is just the volume up and down without changing the spectral content. And a low pass gate is a combination of the two, where as you turn sort of the quote unquote cutoff down, it's reducing the high frequency content and the amplitude at the same time. And the result is that you get this very sort of natural, organic sound that mimics the way that natural instruments sort of fade away in the real world. Like if you think of hitting a drum or playing a guitar string or hitting a note on the piano, it's like the kind of a percussive attack and then a kind of an exponential decrease in amplitude and high frequency content, and then sometimes like a slow fade out. And so it makes these really beautiful, plucky, natural decays, hence the name. And then the other thing that's notable about natural gate is that traditionally low pass gates are created with a electronic component called a Vactrol, which is sort of like an optical thing where there's like a light that shines on a thing that senses light, and then the light just kind of shines on the sensor to sort of activate the gate and open it. And then when the light turns off, the rate at which the Vactrol decays, or the sensor like the sensor discharges with electricity, is what creates the curve that gives it that natural sound. And so natural gate is also interesting in that it doesn't use a Vactrol. And the reason not to use Vactrols is that they're very different from each other. So if you get like a low pass gate that uses Vactrols and you buy two of the same module, they're likely to sound noticeably different from each other. So it's very hard to get like consistency in production. And the second reason is that Vactrols contain a chemical element called cadmium, which is toxic and has actually been banned in the EU and probably some other places as like a prohibited material. So for manufacturing and sales in certain places, like you actually can't even sell this. Like there's a gate, a low pass gate from Tip Top Audio that's like replicating a classic Buchla LPG, and they actually did two versions of the same module, one with Vactrols and one without, so that they could sell them in two different locations. But anyway, so natural gate is like very meticulously tuned with analog circuits and a very like carefully designed internal envelope to create the sort of effect of a low pass gate without using a Vactrol. And let me check in on the chat and drink some tea because I have been chattering away. Pops and clicks. So these cases, Tyler's asking about the IntelliGel cases, which is what I use. These are the original Gen 1 performance cases, and now there's a Generation 2 performance case that has various kind of improvements across the build and the power supply and stuff. I would obviously get the Gen 2s if I didn't already have Gen 1, but there's been some supply issues with them. I know they've been out of stock forever. I should also say that what I was talking about before with the USB power supply, this little module is something you have to buy if you want to like plug in a USB-A cable into the power supply. So there's a cable behind the panel that plugs into the bus board where there's like a socket for the 5-volt rail. And you don't have to do this. You can get your power from another source. But unless you have like a power supply like this Chox DC7, which is like designed for musical applications, if you just like use a USB hub or a power strip with a USB jack that you got at a hardware store, that may not actually have a good power supply for things like the Oxy One that have musical applications and can actually be affected by sort of feedback or noise on the circuit. Psychotech Labs, I'm not sure if I greeted you. If not, welcome to the stream. FM with all signs. Yep. I mean, everything is just sine waves in the end in terms of best signs. Best waves. Because like all other waves are just a combination of sine waves. So I guess in some sense, like people say that there's only one thing that anyone enjoys, and that's dopamine. I guess you could say everyone's favorite wave is the sine wave, because that's really the only one there is. Suggestion from Sunbursta Studios. That's a fun name to say. I've got a natural gate. Why not try to do some natural sounds? Maybe a recreation of an acoustic instrument. Yeah, we can certainly try that. I will have admitted on the stream before that it's not a strength of me in synthesis to like try to recreate specific sounds. I tend to do kind of more exploratory type of sound design. So I can do some sort of the basics of like okay, here's the difference between how you might make like a string sound or a brassy sound versus a flute or something like that. But nothing's going to sound like really realistically close to a real instrument, at least that I can come up with. But I think with Natural Gate, part of the idea is that you'll get a very natural feeling from the sounds that it produces. Can we? Ted Rosner is asking, can we do some fancy sea leg stuff? Yes, we certainly can. Although if you're especially interested in sea legs, I would encourage you to look at the episode from, I forget if it was like 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. We did a stream where we focused on sea legs for sound design. Because I usually use it as kind of a straightforward send effect, right? You know, I slap on a dotted eighth note delay and just apply a little bit of it to each instrument, and maybe with a little bit of reverb. But we did one stream where we focused on using it more kind of intentionally for sound design. So we did Car+ strong and feedback patching and stuff, and came out with some really cool sounds. But we usually end up using sea legs as the sort of primary delay in these patches, so we'll definitely get into that. No, Sunburst, it's a great idea. Also, Ted Rosner, I'm not sure if I welcomed you, so welcome to the stream. Always a pleasure to see you. Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea, but we'll get into it. Let's, I've already been talking for 20 minutes, so, you know, people are here for the music, not for me talking. So let's start to listen to Natural Gate. Does anyone have a preference on what oscillator we use or a sound source to start with Natural Gate? Maybe we'll start with Ona because I was talking about it, and also because kind of starting with the basic waveforms is probably a good idea. So why don't we... I think probably a saw wave is a good place to start, just because it's got the most sort of spectral content. You know, every harmonic is represented. So Natural Gate has 2 channels. Let me zoom in on the right case, and I'll try to talk about the interface for Natural Gate as I patch this. Keep in mind, I've only had this for a week, so I'm by no means an expert of this, and kind of part of my goal here was to explore with you so we can learn together. So I'm going to take the output, well, maybe we'll tune first. I guess the tuning doesn't really matter, but might as well get a stable pitch. So let me plug in, we'll plug in the Ona oscillator into Mordak's data, and let's just, C4 sounds good. A little sharp. All right, close enough. So now we're tuned to middle C, basically. And we can change the octave without changing the relative tuning. So Natural Gate is 2 basically identical channels in terms of controls, although an interesting thing about its design is that the controls and the jacks are actually mirrored across the center. So you can see like the inputs are in the middle and the outputs are on the outside, as opposed to being like in, out, in, out. And I think the reason it was designed that way is because the decay, which is these 2 middle sliders, is kind of like the primary performable control. And so if you want to control both of them at the same time with one hand, it's a little easier to do if they're next to each other. So 2 identical channels. We'll start with just the left half, and I will plug in, what did I do with that little cable? Here we go. We'll plug in the saw wave output of Natural Gate. Actually, let me use an even smaller cable. Use my little tiny self-patch cable since these 2 modules are right next to each other. We're going to do the saw wave into the input of the left channel, and then we will take the output of the Natural Gate into our mixer, which is the Noise Engineering Zermixa, and then I will plug in the main output of the Zermixa into the IntelliGel I/O module, which is plugged into the sound card. And let me open the gate to see if we hear the sound. Are you all hearing a saw wave? And how does it sound in relation to the volume of my voice? I want to make sure that I'm not too loud or too quiet compared to the music. Okay, so that right there we can already see sort of one of the basic functions of the Natural Gate is that in this sort of default position of controls, the gate is closed, so we're not hearing anything. So you can think of it as like a VCA with the volume all the way down, or a filter with the volume all the way down, but down so far that there's literally no signal. You don't hear even a very low frequency tone. So open, this slider on the left, is a control that offsets it essentially opens the gate, as the name implies. So at the fully downward position of the slider, the gate is fully closed. And as you increase it, it manually opens the gate. So this should sound basically equivalent to opening or increasing the cutoff on a low pass filter. So, but it's a combination of a VCA and a filter. So it's decreasing the brightness and the volume at the same time. Obviously, using a filter does decrease the volume because there's, less of the signal is getting through. But a combination of both of them together creates a very natural, smooth curve. So that's just the sound of the saw wave. Hey, Afterlife Registry, welcome to the stream. Good to see you, my friend. We're discussing the Rabid Elephant Natural Gate today, which is a dual channel low pass gate. Okay, so open, that's that control. Then there's the decay, which won't do anything right now because this is dependent on the envelopes. So there's two ways that you can sort of control the opening and closing of the gate with CV. One of them, which we'll start with, is this input called hit. And what this does is you just send it a trigger, and it will automatically generate an envelope internally that it will apply to essentially the cutoff of the LPG. So it'll open the gate and then close it. And let's do that. Let's see. I'm wondering if we should patch in maybe like a constant trigger signal. That's probably the best way to do it. So I'm going to patch. Let's just take a constant trig from the Oct expander, and we're going to put it into hit, and let's listen. Let me put it in the soft setting. Okay, I don't know if you can even hear that. You should hear a very soft sort of clicking sound. So there's this three-way toggle switch right here that's called material. And this toggles between three different built-in envelope curves. I have it in the middle position right now, which is like the softest curve. So it's got kind of a slower attack and a slower decay. But if I pop the switch up to the top position, we should hear more of the sound. There, you hear that? It's got that kind of plucky guitar string-like sound. So that's the LPG with the kind of the most intense attack. So you get a little bit of like a click on the attack because the attack on the internal envelope is extremely fast. It's like under a millisecond or something. So it just goes from 0 to full instantly, and then it quickly decays and then starts to decay more slowly the longer it goes. So you get and this sort of mimics the way that, again, the way that vibrations happen in the real world is that when you like hit a drum or pluck a string, that you're imparting a lot of energy into that physical medium very quickly, and then it loses a lot of that momentum very quickly, and then there's a little bit of vibration that just kind of trails off. And so if we now increase the decay slider, we're going to be changing essentially the tail or the decay of the envelope. So the more I raise this, the longer the decay will ring out, and simultaneously we should be able to hear the pitch more. So you can see it's got a very good range. It can go from very snappy to the point where you almost don't even hear the pitch of the instrument that's running through it, to these decays that last maybe a couple of seconds, maybe 2 or 3 seconds. So you've got this control over the decay. Let's maybe put it in a position where you can hear it a little more. And then in addition to the decay, you can also manually open the gate. So that'll have also some degree of perception of like changing the decay time. See, that kind of sounds like it's changing the decay, and like you're hearing more of the sound. But what it's actually doing is like changing the sort of lowest point of the amplitude. So if I bring the decay all the way down, you hear a bit more of the body of the sound because the gate is never fully closing in this position. You're always getting a little bit of signal, but because of that very sort of sharp envelope being applied to it, you still get that sort of percussive effect. So it's a really nice sound to give it like kind of a little bit of decay and a little bit of kind of open offset. And it's just a really pretty sound, even with a very basic waveform. Again, it's got this material switch. So you've got 3 positions, and we're listening to the top, which is the most kind of the most aggressive attack. Let's leave it at these same settings. If I switch it to the middle position again, now we'll hear the soft setting. So this is like both quieter in terms of sort of its peak amplitude, and also doesn't have quite such a kind of percussive attack with that click at the beginning. Right? And then there's a 3rd position on the bottom, which is kind of like a hybrid between the top 2. So this is a little louder, a little bit more percussive, but not as sharp an attack as the top one. You hear the difference? Top one, bottom one, middle one. So these are the 3 sort of internal envelope shapes that you have. And I think they all sound good and will be, differently suited for different input signals. Any questions so far? Everyone understanding what I've been explaining? There's still a few more controls to cover before we start maybe threading in some different CV signals and different audio sources. So there's CV control over the decay, and there's a built-in attenuverter for the decay also. So if we take, for example, if we just take like a unipolar triangle wave from Oct, and we plug that into the decay, and then we turn the trimmer to the right for letting more of the signal through. I guess I have the rate pretty fast. Let me just turn it all the way up. So you hear a bit of wobble now, that kind of tremolo effect, because the decay is actually being modulated positively from the offset position that the slider puts it in. We can open it a little more. So that's just basic modulation of the decay time. But this little trimmer is an attenuverter, so we can also bring the decay offset all the way up by moving the slider up, and then turn the little trimmer to the left, which will invert the polarity of the incoming CV signal. So now it's modulating the decay time downward from the position of the slider. So you have lots of control over both like which direction it goes and like the amount of attenuation. Give it a little bit of open so it rings out more. So a lot of control there. I'm not sure how well you can see this on the stream, but there's also a little light, kind of like just up and to the left of the green patch cable. There's like these 3 kind of overlapping diamond symbols, and that's an LED underneath. So the brightness of that light is like how open the gate is. So you have like a visual representation of the sound and the envelope curve. So that's one aspect of modulation of this thing. And then the other kind of key element here is the control input, which is right above or to the right of the blue cable. This is the part that I think is kind of the part that's going to take some learning about developing an intuition for how to use. Control is sort of similar to the open jack, the open control, in that what it does is just opens and closes the gate. But the control affects the signal prior to the internal envelope, and the open control affects the signal after the envelope is applied. And so I understand that, but I haven't really found kind of an intuitive way to kind of explain what that means in practical terms yet. So maybe we'll kind of learn that together on stream, or maybe it'll kind of remain a mystery that requires further exploration. If you have this module, by the way, feel free to, kind of tell us about your experience or correct anything I'm saying that might be wrong. So control also has a built-in attenuator, or attenuverter actually. So this little trimmer that's above the hit input, that's an attenuverter for the control input. And the interesting thing about this one is that unlike the decay trimmer, this one is actually has a voltage normaled to it. So even if you don't patch anything into the control input, this trimmer will actually affect the gate. So if I turn it clockwise, we'll start to hear more, like kind of similar to opening the open control. You hear that? How it's kind of not full. The gate is now not fully closing. And if I go all the way up, you're like barely hearing the envelope because the baseline level of the gate is already so high. And it's probably a little hard to see on the stream, but there's also, it's actually hard for me to see right now because of the bright lights, but there's another little triangle LED that's kind of right above to the left of my finger. You can maybe see that it's green. That thing is a indicator for the 0 volt position of the control trimmer. So it's important to know when the control value is kind of at its default position and is not affecting the opening or the closing of the gate in any way. And so when that LED lights up green, it indicates that you've hit the point on the trimmer at which it's having no effect. And that's kind of like the baseline position. So again, because this is an attenuverter, you can also turn it counterclockwise to close the gate more than it opens by default. So this may be hard to hear because it's already so quiet with this level of decay. But let me stop talking for a second and try to listen to the kind of the sound disappearing as I turn left. So it's very subtle at these settings, but you can hear that kind of the pitch and the ringing of the sound starts to get even softer and quieter until it disappears completely. And that's because it's actually there isn't really a 0 point on the gate, right? If you think about it, there's no such thing as silence in a sense. There's only, a lower and lower signal until it's so low that you can't hear it. And so that's kind of what this control is doing. Is it's if you think of an envelope on a graph going up and then going down, what that 0 point is being shifted up and down on an oscilloscope. That's essentially what this control is doing. And so when you go negative on this trimmer, it's going even lower so that the peak of the sort of amplitude on the envelope, you're getting less of that above the audible point. If you imagine a triangle, and maybe I should try to actually, you know what? I can probably demonstrate this because if you don't patch anything into the input, it actually sends a DC signal out of the output. Let's try this on the second jack. I actually have never tried this. Let me plug in the second output to the oscilloscope and oops, I go back to my full screen. I think this will be easier to understand if I'm able to get a visualization of it. But let's plug this in and let me molt this hit input to both sides. So we're going to be hitting the left and the right channels with the same trigger at the same time. Okay, so now if we look at the screen on data, you can actually see a visual representation of the envelope that's being created. Let me put them in the same position. I'm not sure if this will be visible, but we can try it. Oh yeah, it's okay. This will work. So unfortunately I can't easily show you a zoom in on data at the same time as the natural gate since they're in two different cases. But hopefully you'll understand what I'm about to do is turn the control trimmer to the left to close the gate more than it is by default. And if you just watch the kind of shape of the envelope as I do this, you see that it's not going as high. You're getting kind of more of that very vertical line. If I go almost to close, you're just getting these tiny little peaks. And the reason is because like you're still, it's still the same shape of envelope, but because you're shifting the baseline value down, and that kind of middle point is the point at which you can hear things, less and less of the positive part of the envelope is actually producing an audible change in the signal. So this is just another way that you have like very fine control over how you want the envelope to affect the signal that is being processed. And so obviously this is the control trimmer that we're changing, but then we can, after that, bring the decay up. And so now that's the decay maxed out. I can change the open control. And so we start to get back into the category of sort of what it sounded like initially with the control trimmer at 0. But we have to go farther up on those controls to get to that point. So these kind of controls all sort of interrelate to each other and affect each other. But that's the basic idea. So those are the controls that I wanted to go through before we do any of this. So yeah, so last thing I was showing there is that if you don't patch an audio signal into the input, then the out jack will give you the actual envelope that's being generated on the hit input. The other use for the control input is that it allows you to provide your own envelope. So when you use the hit jack, it's just triggering the internal envelope generator, and that has, you know, basically just these 3 modes, and those are the only types of envelopes you get. You have some ability to change like the baseline point and the length of the decay, but you can't really change the curve of the attack in any way. And so if you want like explicit manual control of the opening of the gate and at what rate and at what, you know, at what amplitude, that's what the other and kind of main purpose of the control jack. So let's actually try that. Let me unpatch the hit inputs, and let us let me zoom out for a second, and we will take a envelope from Quadrax. So let me trigger this from the same thing. I guess I could have left this patched. We'll keep using the trig input from the Oct expander, but we will plug a copy of that into the trigger for the first channel of Quadrax, and then we will plug the envelope generated by Quadrax into the control input of the first channel of Natural Gate. And let me zero out the trimmer. It's a little hard for me to see the green light at this angle, but I think I can get it. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, it's quite hard to see with the bright lights on the case. Oh, I should probably unplug this actually. There we go. Okay. So now the control trimmer is zeroed out. I guess this is not so great for demonstration because the modules I'm using are all physically far from each other. I can't really zoom in on any of them without you not seeing the other ones. But maybe we'll just kind of use our ears. So I've got rise and fall time controls here on Quadrax. And we're starting with kind of an instant rise and instant fall. But if I change the fall, that's the decay time. So you start to hear it. It's very quiet though. And that's because when you have a signal plugged into the control input, this trimmer becomes an attenuator or attenuverter rather for the signal. So it's still kind of controlling the baseline, I guess, but we're hearing barely anything because it's attenuating almost all of the signal. So let me go back all the way to instant rise, instant fall, and let's turn the trimmer up to like 50%. And now it sounds pretty similar to the kind of sounds we were getting from the internal envelope, with just like a quick little burst of CV coming through to open the gate and then close it again. And so we can increase the fall time on quadracs. And I think maybe you can already hear how this kind of linear attack and decay sounds different from the sort of natural decay that the internal envelope has. Let's actually patch that again so you can hear the difference. So I'm going to unplug our control signal and just use the internal hit again. You hear that? Hear how much more natural that internal envelope is? Because that envelope that it uses internally is very carefully designed to mimic the sounds of the real world. And if you just patch a normal linear AD envelope into this, it doesn't sound like that at all. Of course, we can change the shape on this, so I can turn, if I turn this little trimmer on quadracs counterclockwise, it's going to give us more of a logarithmic attack and an exponential decay. And so that starts to sound more similar to the built-in envelope. But the cool thing about using your own envelopes is that now you can do slow attacks in addition to these other forms. So let's give it an instant release and a slow attack. And maybe kind of an exponential rise. So this sounds like kind of more of a typical use of a filter. But this is a sound that you can't get with the natural gates built-in envelopes. So that's the purpose of the control jack, is both for offsetting the baseline gate closed position and also for providing your own envelopes. I believe that the control input and the hit input are actually summed together, so we should be able to trigger the hit at the same time as giving it our own envelope. Let's see what this does. Yeah. It's interesting. So we get kind of like a slow start of the rise, but then also the hit from the internal envelope sums and creates this more complex envelope shape. You can start to get little rhythms with it. And then, of course, you can further control how much of this gets let through. And its own decay time will also be summed with the control signal. So you can start to bring in some of that internal envelope shaping. And you can open the gate manually and all the various combinations. Let me know if there's any questions. I hope I'm not boring you all to tears. We can try to get into some more musical applications now. We're kind of done, I think, kind of explaining the basics of the panel. Shall we try another waveform? Let me switch to, we'll stay in the top position. Let me get that green light lit up. It's a little hard to see. There we are. Let me open the decay a little more so we can hear a little bit more of the sound. We'll stay in this hard material setting. Let's try a pulse wave. Can modulate the pulse width. Why don't we stick in some modulation for these, and we'll just try some different sound sources. So, what do we got here? Let's take, this is too long a cable. How about we'll take kind of a random signal into maybe the pulse width modulation. Not sure if that sounds good. Nope. Okay, there's some pulse width modulation. And let's also maybe modulate the decay like we were before. Let's use a bipolar signal for the decay. Let's give it kind of a 50% offset on the decay, 50% amount of the LFO being let through. I feel like that may be too much, because it's really the plucks that sound really nice on this thing. So maybe let's dial that back a little bit. We can also bring in some delay and reverb. Someone was asking about C legs before. Ted was asking about C legs. We can send the output through C legs. I think at this point we kind of get the idea of what natural gate sounds like by itself. So I think it would be fine to get some other sounds involved to get this a little bit more musical. So let me patch up my send effects. Stereo send into C-Legs input. Sunburst have an after later DARV. That is a dual attack release VCA. Is that what that stands for? Yep, 2-channel envelope VCA. No filtering but nice shapes. Another cool feature is also really quite cheap. Yeah, after later makes a lot of good value stuff, I think. And they are popular for good reason. I don't have any of their modules yet, but I assume I will at some point. And especially their mixing system Bartender, I know is really popular. Okay, let's open this. Let's give it some bit of signal. Why is this so quiet? Huh, okay. Let's do, I mean, it's just a mono signal, so maybe we'll do ping pong delay. Some reverb. That's awfully quiet. Let's turn that up. Do I have the trimmer set on this? Why is it so quiet? Ah. That's why. I have the master levels down. There's our reverb and decay, or delay. The mini math, so that's cool. We need a clock here, so maybe I should patch a copy of this. Guess we'll just keep using this trigger for now as the clock, except this is going to want a 16th note clock, so maybe I should actually switch the clock source here. Let's use Pam. So I'll send 4x clock into the clock input of C-Legs. Let's change this clock signal to be, we'll just do 1x for now, into the hit input. And we're not currently using our Quadrex envelope, that's fine. I'm going to do a unipolar LFO for the decay and just set it on its minimum setting, because I think it sounds really nice when it's like at its most plucky. The Only Stool, am I pronouncing that right? Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stream. Control shapes the sound before the EG. Yeah, that's right. So it does affect the decay. Everything also works at audio rates. Ah, yeah, that is something we should definitely try, is sending an audio rate signal into the control input. It's fun to use to one side to modulate the other. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of combinations. I mean, the manual has like maybe 8 or 10 different sort of patch examples. Some of them are kind of rephrased duplicates of the same idea. But there's definitely a lot of use cases for this thing. I think we should also get a pitch sequence going so that we are not just listening to the same pluck forever, and maybe like some sort of nice rhythm to do that as well. Why don't we patch up the Oxy one for this? Does someone have a preference about what we use to sequence today? I try to mix it up so we're not always using the same thing. But sometimes people want to see specific things. But let me set up let's see, we've got a mono sequencer. On sequencer 1, we're going to send the pitch and the gate out of the first 2 CV channels. And so actually, in that case, I'm going to want to, let me turn this off. We're going to clock PAM from the Oxy 1. So the clock out of Oxy 1 will go into the clock input of PAM. The run signal will go from the Oxy 1 into the run signal of PAM. And then if I press play, then we should get, okay, let me turn the BPM down. Maybe like 125 would be a good starting point. And let's just drop down some, actually, you know what? Let's try using like one of the rhythm generator sort of like things. So what is it? Gen? Yeah. This thing, let me zoom in actually on the Oxy 1 for a second. So I'm not sure how good the quality of the screen is at this resolution, but I'm using the first sequencer in this Gen feature, which does a Euclidean sequencer, where you select the number of steps in the sequence. So maybe let's select 13 steps, and then the number of pulses. So that's like how many triggers are there within that number of steps, and then it tries to lay out the number of steps that you've given within that, or so that the number of triggers that you've selected within the number of steps that you've selected as evenly as possible. And if you give it sort of in divisions that if you get a number of pulses and a number of steps that are not evenly divisible, then you get these kind of interesting offset rhythms. I'm not hearing anything yet. Let's try doing some notes. Maybe we'll allow it to go up to sevenths. Why am I not hearing anything? Because I haven't patched anything yet, of course. So we need to patch, let's patch our pitch signal from the CV1 output of the Oxy 1 pipe into the volt per octave input of the ONA, which is our sound source currently. And then we can take one of our blue cables and we can patch the gate signal into the hit input, and we should start hearing something again. Oh, that's pretty demonic. We've got a instant horror movie soundtrack. Oh, because I'm in chromatic. We need to set a scale. Let's, anyone have a preferred scale? Let's do Dorian. It's kind of nice. Give it a little more reverb. Like a longer reverb tail, but maybe a little less on the amount. And let's use the tape mode with a little color. Give it a little more feedback. Let's try changing the time. It's kind of nice. Maybe you need a little bit more of the delay. So we can go back to gen mode and kind of mess with these numbers to get different rhythms. Maybe that's too much delay. Or maybe it's just too fast. I'll try going slower. That sounds kind of nice. What do you all think? Let's give it a little bit more decay modulation. So you can kind of give it a sense of dynamics by changing sort of the decay time, and it's also very playable. So you can kind of, you know, in addition to the modulation, you can open up the decay and like kind of let notes become more prominent. And especially with the decay, that becomes very nice sounding. And similarly, playing the open by hand. Very pretty. A little bit goes a long way. Let's try the softer material setting. With a little bit more open. Very pretty, yeah. It's a very natural, like the name implies, it's very natural sounding. So of all the demos I've listened to, it's definitely the best sounding LPG to me, or at least the one that kind of matches my taste the best. Let's try another waveform. I'm gonna switch from the pulse wave to one of the complex waves on Ona. So this is let me go into the kind of medium internal envelope. This is a combination between, I think, a triangle and a pulse wave, where the pulse wave is being modulated. So maybe let's try to use this modulation signal from the second channel. We can take, I guess we can look at it through the Mordax data oscilloscope like we were before. Maybe I will, well, yeah, we'll just use its internal envelope, and let me use like a different multiple of the clock. Oh, it's not. Okay, there we go. Now we're actually running. Let me switch over to the left cam while I set up Pam. So I'm just going to reset it from whatever I was doing last time. Get all of the outputs back to their defaults, and let's pick some division that's like kind of syncopated or kind of offbeat with sort of so I'm doing 1.3x, and let's patch that into the hit of the second channel. So now if we look at the pod, and it looks like I've got the trimmer really closed. Try to get that more back to 0. Yep. And I've got the sharp envelope on. And so let's take this signal and send that into the control input of the second one. So now we'll be kind of triggering this second envelope that's offset from the first one, rather than just adding to it. I need a longer cable. And then let's increase the control trimmer so we start to let some of that signal through. It's a very dynamic, kind of natural sound, as the name implies. Maybe actually we want more reverb than this. Let me turn up the reverb. Should we try a different envelope amount? Or like I've got the the right channel is right now in the kind of sharpest position. So we can get already very nice modulations and changes just from performing the sliders with very slow movement. You know what would sound really nice here actually is I'll give it a little bit more. I want this to actually be pretty effect heavy because I think it sounds great. Let's do some modulation of the delay, because we've got this fantastic built-in modulation source on C legs. I guess we could just start with wow and flutter. As I turn up the depth, it increases the amount that wow and flutter is applied to the primary time control. You get those wobbly pitch changes. And then in wow and flutter mode, the rate will affect whether you're getting more wow or more flutter, meaning like kind of low frequency pitch modulation versus high frequency kind of, well, flutter as the name suggests. I think actually flutter tends to sound better to me. So I'm going to move the rate all the way up so that we get all flutter and now wow. I think this could sound cool, especially with this kind of percussive thing. Maybe that's a little much. Maybe I'll pull back a little bit so we get a tiny bit of wow. Let's give it a lot more feedback too. Sounds really nice. I kind of want to just crank the effects, honestly. Let's do full decay and full volume on the reverb. Okay, maybe that is a little much. We're starting to lose the real sound a bit. That sounds good. So I wonder about maybe mixing this envelope that we're creating with the second, the control signal from the second channel, maybe mixing that with an LFO. So in addition to getting sort of the dynamic plucks, we also get kind of a level of, actually maybe we want just the decay to change more. I don't know. Let's try mixing this. So I'm gonna send that second envelope that we're creating from the second channel. Let's send that into Quadrat and max that out. And then let's mix it with maybe a slow unipolar LFO. Let's see, will this cable reach? It sure will. So the slow triangle wave mixed together, and then we'll take that mixed output into the Mordax data and kind of dial in a nice shape. We do 50% of each signal. A little bit more envelope. Okay, so now in addition to that second envelope that we're looking at on data here, we're also modulating that signal with a unipolar LFO. So kind of as you can sort of see let me actually change the resolution here. Let's give it a negative offset so we can see more of it. Not sure how clear that is, but you should see that the spike on the graph is kind of moving up and down vertically over time. sometimes the bottom of the, or sometimes the bottom, the tip of the spike, the highest amplitude is like right at the top of the screen, and sometimes it goes down a little bit. And that's because we're kind of combining that envelope with that unipolar modulation signal, that triangle wave that's very slowly going up and down. So in addition to giving us that second kind of dynamic pulse stream, we're also changing the amplitude of those pulses for more dynamism. Stool, you like the soft setting? Yeah, I mean, so one of the sort of selling points of the module is like those very clicky percussive attacks where you really actually hear like a click, because the attack is so fast that if you're sending it a VCO a signal, like if the attack is so fast that it's actually likely to cause a click because it's going to suddenly change the amplitude in the middle of the wave and not like at a zero crossing or something. So you tend to get like very audible clicks on the attack, especially on these kind of faster attack settings. And some people don't like that or don't want it for all possible applications. Like sometimes you want something that's more gentle. And so that's one of the reasons why you would use the control input to feed it your own envelope, because the built-in envelopes are like really geared for that particular sound. But if you don't want such a strong click, then using using the soft envelope for kind of the more gentle attack can help. But I found even in my own testing that even the softest internal envelope still causes a click with a lot of sound sources. So the control input with your own envelope with a slower attack may be appropriate in that case. Another tip which was talked about in I think it might be mentioned in the manual, but it's certainly mentioned in the thread on ModWiggler, the giant 67-page thread that I slogged through. If you send a sync signal to your oscillator, like sync being an input that when you send it a trigger, it resets the phase of the waveform. And if you sync that to the hit input so that the wave is starting its cycle right as the hit happens, with most waveforms, you should be probably closer to a zero crossing point. And then you'll be kind of more likely to not hear that click because of the sudden change in amplitude. I use that to kind of varying degrees of success in my initial testing, but that's definitely something to try if the clickiness is something you don't want. Let's try some different combinations of the internal envelope here, because we are hitting both sides. So let's try, right now we have, let me make sure I'm looking at the right case. Yeah, so right now we've got the medium setting envelope on the channel that we're sending the audio into, and the most intense attack on the control signal. So let's try maybe using the soft setting on the left side. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like a tonal quality change in addition to the clickiness. I mean, you can really hear sort of the dynamics that you get out of this thing. And let's try playing with the open and the decay manually. It's so pretty with the delay and the reverb. I'm curious now to try a softer setting on the second envelope we're giving it. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's really pretty. Should we add another melodic part? Maybe give this a bass line for a little bit of harmony underneath? I think that could really add to the musicality of this. Obviously, we're mostly kind of just doing, exploration of what the module sounds like on its own. But we've got another 45 minutes to spend together for anyone who's enjoying this, what do you say we add a bass? And I think I will go for Castor and Pollux. Actually, Manus might sound good here. I think Castor and Pollux tends to be my go-to for bass sounds because it's got, especially when I filter it through Neptune, which is a filter from the same company, it's got really good kind of growly low end that I like. I tend to like very kind of smooth, subtle bass sounds. Yeah, actually, let's use Castor and Pollux so we can get a stereo sound. Because that allows you, it's two oscillators in one, where one is kind of like following the other for chorus sounds. And you can mix them together with a single mono output, but you can also take each side out separately. So we can do one hard left, one hard right to get a nice stereo bass sound. Let's do that. Now, unfortunately, we can't filter them. I guess we can maybe do two different filters, actually. Oh, no, we'll just use Icaria instead of Neptune, because Icaria is a stereo filter. So let me grab some... I guess we should actually tune it first. Make sure that we're in the same scale as our main voice. So let's listen to... Or let's just tune the left side. Oh, nice. We're already on C1. Beautiful. And are we detuned a lot on the other side? It's got some chorus going, but it's pretty well tuned to C1 already. Okay, nice. I left the knobs in a good position. I like it. Okay, so let's get some short cables. And we will go Castor side into the left Icaria input. Right side into the right Icaria input. And you can probably do short cables again. This is pretty close. Left output into channel 2 of the mixer. Right input. And let's bring in the volume on this, see how it sounds. I don't hear anything because the input is all the way down. Overdrive it a little bit so we get some growl. The input gain control on Icaria goes from completely silencing the sound at like full attenuation. When you have the knob at noon, it's like unity gain, and then it goes all the way up to 5x. So you can really distort the signal. You hear that? That actually sounds gorgeous, I think. Resonance, maybe. The resonance, like the more you turn up the gain, the less pronounced the resonance is, because there's like the amount that it's feedbacking at the cutoff point is like not much more beyond what you're already driving it for. But it also means that you don't get really ugly squelches on resonance. It just adds to kind of the beauty of it. So let's give this some modulation too. Let's do a slow bipolar LFO on the stereo spread. So this will detune the cutoff of the left and right sides. So you'll hear a little bit of motion as the filter opens up more on one side and closes more on the other, and kind of goes back and forth between the two. Which will have a little bit of a sort of stereo panning sort of sound to it, but it's actually changing the cutoffs rather than the volume. And let us also modulate the cutoff itself with another bipolar LFO. Just slightly on that one. I don't want it to be... Maybe we'll pull the actual volume on the mixer down a little bit, because I don't want it to overpower the sound of the natural gate. Oh yeah, sounds really nice. Should we set up a pitch sequence for this bass, or do we just want a drone? What are y'all feeling? Also wondering about maybe... Bass sounds flat. Flat as in just not kind of dynamic enough. Yeah, let me pull back the overdrive a bit. I tend to like a very smooth, subtle bass. Smooth, not in the sense of clean, like not overdriven, but just kind of like not a lot of high harmonics. I like it like very low passed, just kind of sub-bassy. Yeah, let's give it a slow pitch sequence. So let's go over to the Oxy 1. What do we do here? Let's slow down the rate of... Yeah. So each one of these, maybe we'll do 8 bars. 2 bars of C, and then maybe the 4th, the 3rd, the 6th, the 5th, the 3rd, the 2nd. Oh, you think the pitch sounds unstable. Interesting. Oh, well, that's actually true because Castor and Pollux is an analog oscillator, first of all, so it will have some pitch drift. And then also this particular oscillator is modeled after the Roland Juno series, and it was kind of known for its chorus sound. So part of the point of Castor and Pollux is using the detuning between the left and right sides of it to create chorus sounds. So you can detune them manually, but you can also use this middle knob to kind of introduce an actual dedicated chorus circuit, which might actually sound good here. Wonder if we should send do we want to send the bass through a reverb? I mean, bass you usually don't want reverb, so I think we'll leave that out for now. Let's patch up the sequence here. So we're going to send we're going to ignore gate on the bass. We're just going to have it drone all the time, but we're going to change its pitch with the... Oops, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong camera. Oh, again, the wrong camera. So I'm going to the CV setup for the Oxy 1. I have set the second CV output of Oxy 1 to be the pitch of our bass. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to ignore the gate signal because we're just going to have it drone all the time. It's not going to have note sort of start and stop points. Right? So let's plug that in. Let's get our pitch. I need a longer cable. Will this reach? Yep. So CV2 is going to go into the pitch of Castor and Pollux. I think I want this to be even slower, actually. So let's... Did I do that wrong? Hey, Brees. Great to see you, my friend. That's right, yeah, Juno uses DCOs. Ah, so the chorus is not actually part of the, you know, the oscillator itself being unstable. It's been a while since I read the write-up about it. It's really sad. Thank you for that correction, Brees. It's sad because the company that made Castor and Pollux and Neptune, these two modules here, Winterbloom, has shut down since I got these, and so they're not making new modules anymore. They were really interesting. Thea, the woman that ran the company, wrote this very long article about kind of the architecture of the Juno and what was unique about it and how its design inspired Castor and Pollux and kind of the details of what they took from it. So it's been quite a while since I read that article. I don't remember all the details, but for anyone that's really interested in kind of more of the internals of how a synth works, and the Juno series, if you really like this sound, highly recommend checking their site out. So it's I think it's winterbloom.dev, or I don't know, you should be able to find it. Just search for Winterbloom modular. Sunburst, you have a JX3P, nice. I never had a, so when I was a kid, I had, my first synth was a Alesis QS6, which I think anyone who is in their 40s or older may remember, from, I guess, the 90s, like mid-90s. And it's funny, like, back in the day, I only ever used, like, presets on it. I didn't really start to understand synthesis as the basics until much later. So I really significantly underused that synth, but at the same time, like, its presets got me a long way in making music when I was a teenager and in my 20s. And I actually kind of regret parting with it, because it's kind of a bummer not to have your first synth anymore. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so I had the Roland JV1010, which was a sound module that I used also mostly with presets, as I recall. And I do remember it having some good kind of chorusy sounds like this, so I don't actually remember anything about the architecture of that. I probably didn't even know at the time, so I don't know if that one was used the sort of same DCO architecture. Probably. I don't remember ever having like any sort of sound instability issues with it, but also I didn't really understand synthesis as well in those days, so I'm not sure I would have necessarily known what I was listening to. Oh yeah, this is pretty. I feel like I want more modulation on this though. Let's bring maybe more. More amplitude to the oh yeah, that's nice. I love the way that the kind of reverb swells up when the gate opens more, and you get sort of more of those higher harmonics. Sounds so nice. Got a Juno 106, nice. Good sounds, especially bass. Yeah, absolutely. I could see getting it more into kind of vintage synths. Like, I think it'd be really fun to have like a real Juno and maybe some of the other stuff from the 80s and give or take. But for me, it's mostly a space constraint. Just like, I don't have a place in my room to put this stuff. I've already got as you can see, I have a whole desk dedicated to modular stuff. And I've got a bookcase behind me that's stacked up, and my closet's full. It's like, ugh. I don't know where I would put all this stuff. I would really like to get like a really nice like modern polysynth though. I'm not a keyboard player, so I think it would be pretty wasteful for me to buy some really nice flagship with a nice key bed, like a what's it called, the one from Arturia, like a Polybrute or something. Like, that would obviously be like the dream of capability, but I don't think I'm a good enough player to make that make any sense, and certainly like space wise I can't. But I could imagine getting like a desktop polysynth, like maybe one of the ones from Sequential, like maybe the Take 5 module version is pretty interesting to me. I think that's definitely on the short list. And then just controlling it with the Keystep 37. just sequencing it with something I think would sound nice. All right, any other ideas for what to add to this? One thing that's just kind of like one of my kind of go-to sound effects for something that's just kind of pretty and evocative like this is to add some white noise through a filter, which I think we could do. Sunburst at Jupiter 6, sold at Chooch. Man, you know, so one thing I've been doing in kind of my modern era of synths as a hobby is selling things only if they're like, I'm very sure that they're 100% superfluous. I'm privileged enough that I have not needed to like sell anything to like survive or anything like that. I know some people, it's just like, I can't get anything new until I sell something I already have. And for me, I haven't had to do anything like that at this point. But I don't sell things. Like if I've sold like maybe less than 5 modules, maybe like 2 or 3. And I only sell modules when it's like something that's been completely subsumed by something else I got. Like for example, I used to have a pair of these stereo I/O modules, like stereo input, stereo output, as 2 separate modules. I used to have another pair of these over here in the other case, and then they released this like stereo I/O that has the same functionality plus more mixing opportunities and a headphone jack as a single module. I'm like, well, that's just straight up better than having the 2 of them separate. So I got that, sold the original in and out, and just things like that is like, it's literally has no functional benefit. But for everything else, I'm like, I'd rather just, even if I'm not using it a lot, I'd rather keep something in my closet and pull it out when I feel inspired and have kind of like a larger collection at my disposal. Anyway, oh yeah, let's see, how much time do we have? Well, we've got still a half an hour. At the risk of messing up a good thing, I'm actually thinking about unplugging the modulation side of the natural gate and using the right side of it to do a kick drum. Let's take this trigger that I was sending to the natural gate's right side, and is this gonna be long enough to reach? I need a slightly longer one. Let's take an envelope from stages or from quadracs instead, to kind of replicate more or less what the right side was doing there. We'll send that into the output, which was this first channel. Okay, that's more or less what we had before. And I want to get a kick drum sound going. So let's take the first channel of blades, which is this filter from Mutable Instruments in the left case. We're going to take the output of the first channel. This is dual mono. We're going to send that into the input of the the input of the right channel of natural gate. And then let me open actually I need to patch a little bit more first. Hang on a second. I'm going to take the output of the right channel of natural gate into, that's a little short. Try to optimize my cable lengths here. Output of the filter going through natural gate into the third channel of our mixer. Let's bring that sound in. Let's open this a little bit. I don't want to hurt our ears here. I'm going to turn the frequency all the way down. We're going to go into low pass mode. I'm turning let's leave the drive at about noon. Resonance all the way up. I want it to self-oscillate. There's a low rumbly sound, you hear that? So let's give this a 4 on the floor kick. So we're gonna hit the, I'm just gonna take a 1x output from Pam for just the quarter note downbeats. I'm gonna send that into the hit input of the right side. Use the sharpest internal envelope. And there we go, we've got a kick drum sound. I want it to be kind of snappier, even snappier than what we get out of this instant envelope. You're hearing a discordant bass note. You want me to turn the... I'm not sure I'm hearing what you are. Oh yeah, I hear it. I think it's just from the chorus. Let me turn the chorus off. Let me know if you're still hearing something that sounds unpleasant to you. Oh yeah, I hear that too. What did I do? I think I hit one of the other notes accidentally on the sequencer. It's a little sharp, maybe. Yeah, a little hard to tune it exactly right live. I wonder about maybe... let's try to increase the amplitude of that signal. Turn up the drive, maybe. Okay, well, you hear a little bit of... Oh, it's possible that maybe the discordant sound you're hearing is also from the modulation of the delay. Let's give the kick from Blades also a little bit of a pitch envelope to get that kind of attack. So I'm going to give another 1x clock to the second. Actually, we don't even need to do that. We can just do. No, we won't. Trigger to the second input, and this one we're going to send to the FM input. Let me go to the left camera. So I'm getting a second envelope just on the downbeat, kind of coinciding with the kick triggers. I'm going to send that into the FM input of Blades and bring up the attenuation a little bit. So we hear more of the body of the kick. Yeah. Yeah, from what I've read, it's useful to use both sides of the natural gate when you're doing a kick, because then I could use kind of envelopes from the natural gate to handle both the clicky sort of percussive attack and also the pitch envelope. But I think for, doing this off the cuff in a live stream, I'm actually pretty happy with the sound of this. It's not too bad. The other thing we could do is we can molt our kick drum. Let me unplug it for a second. I'm going to send it into a multiple here on the right case. And then I'm going to send a copy of it. One of them will go back into our mixer so we hear it. Oops. to send another copy into our compressor, which is Messer. That'll go into the sidechain input of Messer, and then let's take our bass, instead of directly into the mixer, let's send that through the compressor. So from the filter into Messer, and then from the compressor back into the mixer, and now we can sidechain our bass sound to the kick. Oh, you got the boom, however that's pronounced. Yeah, it seems to be very popular right now. I think I hear what you're talking about on the... It does seem like the pitch tracking is slightly off on that high note, like this next one. It's maybe a little flatter, a little sharp there. It's hard to hear. You hear distortion? Oh, it might be because I have the mixer turned up a little hot. I don't know. It sounds okay to me, so maybe that... Oh, really? I'm not sure what that's about. I'll have to listen to the recording afterwards. I'm sorry if there's audio problems. It sounds fine to me, so it may be something in between my monitoring and the actual stream itself. Well, take my word for it that the natural gate sounds awesome. As best as I can. Let's see, what other suggestions did we have about things to add to this? Was there anything? A sparkly sound? Okay, yeah. Let me, let's see what else. One thing we could also do is maybe, let's send natural gate through beads. We can get a sparkle out of that. Okay, gonna need probably a long cable for this guy. So let's take our output into the input of beads, and then stereo output of beads. And this will give us some stereo image too, which will be nice. Go into our... What I did is I unplugged the output of the melodic natural gate sound, and I'm sending it through beads, the granularizer. And let's give beads a clock. Grains, trying to get a sound that's not too distracting. Oh, it's just you. Okay. Well, good to know. No worries, man. It's a learning experience. So it's useful for me to know that sometimes if something sounds bad, it may not be something that I can control, and I will know to be able to suggest that. I think this actually sounds pretty nice with the grains. We are a little hot though. Let me turn the mixer down. What do y'all think? Are you liking the addition of beads, or do you think this is kind of taking away from the core that we had? I think it's pretty. I'm digging it. What do we think on the kick drum? Is it too quiet, too loud? We want more FM. I can make it a laser drum sound. Oh, that's actually funny. You can hear the kind of a bit of reverb on that. Tweaking the decay of the kick drum pitch modulation. Sounds very, very nice. A choir. Yeah, I mean, the only module I have here that's capable of sampling at all is beads. But we could maybe get sort of a choir-like sound using the plate's chord engine. We could try that. Let me tune it real quick. Send its output to the tuner. F. That is not the tone I want. Oh no, it is set to C. Okay, we're good. Yeah, good idea. Let's change the timing. Let's go to the Oxy one. Let me save our settings here. Second sequence. Let's try the same idea. We'll use the generate. Oops. Use the gen. I'm trying to remember what this NTE percentage control does on the Oxy one. I don't remember. I don't use this gen mode very often, so I've got to... Oh, there's a second pulse, too. I really have not explored this much. this actually sounds kind of nice. So what I'm doing in the Oxy one is I'm leaving the number of steps in the Euclidean sequence the same, and just kind of turning up and down the number of triggers within that number of steps, which is kind of like changing the density of how many hits we have. I guess I should be playing the natural gate too. Vary the timing of the effects send. Sure, we can do that. Let me take, let's go to the right case. Maybe take kind of this like stepped random sort of signal from, let's see if this cable's long enough. Yeah, so this is like a stepped random signal from the bottom section of the Oct expander. We can put that into one of the control inputs on the mixer, and if we go into the config expander, create a new mod. Oh, it looks like I already have one. Let me get rid of that. So we're going to create a new mod. Jack 1 is going to be affecting channel 1, and it's going to change the amount that we're sending to the A, and we're going to scale the amount of send effect by maybe like 50%. I don't want it to be too extreme. Might be too much. Let me do like 25%. Or maybe we actually want this to be more like 75 or 80. Yeah, so now this random signal, how well you can see it on the screen. Now it's kind of covered by cables, but I'm sending a kind of like a random stepped voltage from the Oct expander into the programmable CV input of the mixer. And what I've done is I've applied that signal to the amount of our melodic natural gate voice that's being sent to C-Legs. And I set it to the scale mode. So it's scaling the amount that I've set in the fixed settings by about like 80% of its maximum. So it's not going as high as it was before. Maybe I want to go full scale. Maybe we should try it. Let me go all the way up to 100. So it will be at most as much as it was before, but it'll also drop the send amount away. Maybe the way to do this is to actually scale it in an inverted way, so it kind of pulls away some. Okay, so now like I've set it so the kind of the default setting is that it's at kind of like 100% of its fixed setting, or it's like manual send amount, and then the random signal coming in, the stepped random voltages, is decreasing the send amount by up to 40%. Oh yeah, I forgot I was going to try to apply like a chord bank tone from plates. Let's send it through dual dagger in case we want to filter it a bit. This is just a small stereo filter, but we're only using it in mono here. Let's turn off the resonance. Send that into our next channel here. Bring that on the mixer. Let's bring that in. Oh, thanks, Bad Machine. Always appreciate you stopping by. Glad you had a good time. Oh wait, that's the wavetable mode. Chords. I'm not sure this is going to achieve kind of like a chordal effect, which is what I was hoping for. I think especially with that bass, like the harmonics here just don't really match. Or maybe it was just out of tune. No, that's not bad. Right? Let me actually send this through the black stereo reverb. We're gonna drench this baby. Cathedral setting. More than 50% dry wet so that we're mostly getting the reverb from. And let's get a slow, you hear that kind of pad there? Let's get a very slow LFO from Oct and send that into the timbre control on plates, which is going to modulate the inversion of the chord. So it'll kind of just change the amount of upper harmonics that we hear. Maybe we do want some resonance. It's pretty nice. More wet. Turn the tone down on the reverb so it's not, brightness isn't too overpowering. Yeah. Does the bass sound too quiet to you? No? Let me bring the bass volume up a little bit now that there's more kind of stuff going on in the mix. And I'm going to pull down the volume of the pad. I don't want that to be very prominent. I just kind of want to get a sense of it. Okay. Well, I think this was a pretty successful stream. I hope this was interesting and enjoyable, that you learned a bit about the natural gate and its capabilities. And we made some actually decent sounding music with it, just on the fly. Which is something I'm always pleasantly surprised about. It's a lot of potential for things to go wrong when you do it live. As I'm sure those of you who are here frequently have seen. So I will start wrapping up. Let me know if there's any other last minute questions before we end and I unpatch this. But as I sort of play us out, I will do my usual spiel. which is that this is, again, been Patch of Play. My name's Jimmy. I do these once a week, usually on Mondays, but sometimes on the weekend, to give people who are working during Mondays a chance to attend live. The recordings, of course, will be available. If you like this, then there's plenty of past episodes for you to watch. I'm also posting videos that are both musical performances and educational videos, mostly about modular, to my channel. Lately I've been doing them about once a week, but I can't promise that they'll always be that frequent. So I'd appreciate you checking those out. If you find what I'm doing useful or enjoyable, I would very much appreciate any support that you can lend my way on Patreon. You go to patreon.com/Percepties, or check the link or the channel for the channel description for the link. You will find it. You can join for free if you want, and then you'll just get updates whenever I have a new video or a new live stream or anything like that. But if you want to chip in for a few dollars a month, then there's a bunch of benefits, including high-quality audio download of any of the music that I post on the channel. You'll get text patch notes for any of the educational videos that I do. You'll get full access to the community Discord server, a bunch of other stuff. And of course, the support just really helps me to be able to continue to do this sustainably in the long term, which is what I would love to do. I hope it's worth it to you. It is free to join the Discord, by the way, even if you don't sign up for a paid Patreon tier. So again, check the link in the description or the card that will come on at the end of the stream. It's bit.ly/Percepties Discord, capital P Percepties, capital D Discord, and you can come chat with us about modular, music tech, electronic music, all these good things. So thank you very much for anyone who watched, everyone who was here today live during the stream, participated in the chat, asked questions, and offered ideas for where to take the patch. I am quite pleased with how it turned out. And I'll be back next week with more. Also, stay tuned to the channel. I have for those who are newer to modular, I have kind of a beginner video that's coming out this Wednesday that I'm hopeful will be very helpful and understanding for anyone who's just starting with this stuff. Okay, take care everyone. Have a good week.